Chains of Mephistopheles is certainly the strangest discard outlet we run. Looping through it is very complicated but offers us utility and stacks and helps deal with our opponents. There are some issues, however. We need a draw trigger to start, we can't use Causaland, it doesn't draw our entire library, and it leaves us with cards in our graveyard. I will be using card sleeves to represent draw triggers and hopefully make this a little easier to understand. Chains of Mephistopheles is a very convoluted card, one that is difficult to understand by reading alone. I prefer to use a flowchart, as you can see on this proxy. I strongly recommend pausing the video and looking one up if you aren't familiar with it, as the video assumes you have somewhat of an understanding of how the card works. To begin, we must have a draw trigger on the stack, Chains of Mephistopheles and the Gitrog monster on the battlefield, and Dakmor Salvage in hand. Resolve the draw trigger through Chains by discarding Dakmor Salvage, which generates a new draw trigger from the Gitrog. We now have a draw trigger filtered through Chains, represented by this flipped sleeve. We replace this draw with Dakmor's Dredge 2, milling 2, and returning Dakmor Salvage to our hand. Whenever we mill a land, a new draw trigger is generated. Although we didn't hit a land this time, you can see there is still a draw trigger on the stack, allowing us to repeat this process. We resolve shuffles as necessary while repeating to generate just enough draw triggers to draw the library. With draw triggers on the stack, we can start actually drawing cards. First, we resolve a draw trigger by discarding Dakmor and drawing a card. Now we resolve another draw trigger straight through Dakmor's Dredge instead of through Chains. We mill 2, return Dakmor Salvage to our hand, and remove a draw. Now we can repeat this, weaving between the two replacement effects, and we don't necessarily have to use Dakmor as our dredger for this. As long as we discard our shufflers as needed, we're all set. The easiest and recommended way to kill your enemies at this point is by removing Chains of Mephistopheles from the battlefield and playing a normal discard outlet, so we can use Causaland and the rest of our loop. If you want to do this at instant speed, you can play Oblivion Crown, which has flash. However, you can still loop through Chains if you are okay with going through a lot of hassle.